In the cold darkness of the outer galaxy, far from the crowded systems of powerful empires and ancient alliances, the small human colony of New Horizon stood as a silent beacon on the edge of space, almost invisible to passing starships and forgotten by most. For decades, this remote settlement had quietly grown, a place of simple lives and hard work where farmers tended strange alien crops and engineers repaired weather-beaten machines beneath twin suns. No one in the vast galactic networks had paid much attention to New Horizon, calling it just a colony, a backwater outpost with little value and less danger. But beneath its peaceful surface, the colony was not as it seemed. In hidden bunkers beneath the soil and in deep caves carved by the earliest settlers, secret rooms buzzed with lights and monitors, and the hum of advanced technology filled the air. The colonists had long prepared for something no one else expected, a time when the galaxy's eyes would finally turn toward them, curious or greedy for what this quiet world might hide. People whispered in hushed tones about the Project Sentinel, a plan conceived by the first settlers who had fought hard to keep New Horizon alive against storms, predators, and isolation. The colony's leaders, a council of scientists, soldiers, and survivors, had trained every able-bodied citizen in skills far beyond farming and mining skills in defense, strategy, and technology that were kept secret from the rest of humanity and all alien races. On the surface, New Horizon looked like a typical settlement, with modest houses, small markets, and children playing under the open sky. But in the shadows, powerful energy shields hummed quietly, hidden missile batteries waited beneath the ground, and sleek drones patrolled the air, ready to spring into action at the slightest threat. The colony's communication array sent out coded signals every day, disguised as simple weather updates, but actually calls for help, warnings, and intelligence sent in secret to Earth and other human strongholds. Outside the colony's orbit, a lone alien ship appeared sleek, cold, and silent, carrying observers from the powerful Sindari Empire, known throughout the galaxy for its ruthless conquests and sharp intelligence. The Sindari had no idea what waited for them on New Horizon. Their scanners detected strange energy patterns, but could not fully understand their source or purpose. The ship moved cautiously, sending probes that disappeared as quickly as they arrived, while the colonists watched from below, their hidden eyes tracking every move. On the ground, a young soldier named Mara stood at the edge of a ridge, eyes fixed on the approaching star. She'd grown up hearing stories of humanity's fall after the last Great War, how Earth had retreated behind walls of silence and shadows, and how the colonies were left to fend for themselves in the dark corners of space. But Mara was different. She had trained for this moment all her life, waiting, watching, ready to defend her home with everything she had. As the alien ship entered orbit, alarms finally sounded throughout New Horizon, though only in secret places. The public went about their day unaware, but behind the scenes, the colony transformed. Engineers rushed to activate hidden weapons, communications officers sent encrypted signals, and soldiers like Mara moved to their stations. The tension grew thick as the alien ship sent a small landing pod toward the surface, intending to make first contact. Mara's heart pounded as she watched the pod's descent, knowing that the peace of her home was about to shatter. When the pod landed, soldiers surrounded it. The hatch opened slowly, revealing figures clad in strange armor, faces hidden behind reflective helmets. The Sindari envoys stepped out, calm but clearly prepared for hostility. A tense silence hung in the air as the two sides faced each other, each waiting for the other to make a move. Suddenly, without warning, a powerful blast erupted from the colony's hidden defenses, striking the alien ship's orbiting scout. The calm shattered into chaos as the colony declared its readiness to fight, revealing that New Horizon was far more than a simple settlement, it was a fortress. Across the stars, distant listeners caught the signal of war, surprised and unprepared for the fierce resistance of a colony they had ignored for so long. Mara and her fellow defenders braced themselves for what would come next, knowing that their fight was not just for survival, but for humanity's place in the galaxy, a secret that had finally been uncovered and could never be hidden again. In the tense moments after New Horizons' hidden defenses fired on the Sindari scout ship, the atmosphere on the colony shifted from quiet routine to urgent alert, and the skies above the settlement darkened as more Sindari warships appeared on the horizon, their sleek silhouettes casting long shadows over the landscape as they prepared for a response far fiercer than anyone had expected. Inside the colony's command center, Mara and the other soldiers watched the approaching fleet through reinforced windows, their faces tense but determined, knowing that the brief peace they once had was now broken and that the Sindari would not simply accept this unexpected resistance without retaliation. Meanwhile, on the alien vessels, commanders studied the unexpected military strength of the colony with disbelief, their sensors overwhelmed by the energy shields and weapon systems hidden beneath the surface, which were far more advanced than the scattered technology typical of human colonies. And with each passing minute, the Sindari sent urgent messages back to their homeworld, warning that what they had assumed to be an easy conquest was instead a fortress ready to fight back with deadly precision. As the first landing pod from the Sindari warship descended onto the plains near New Horizon, Mara and her squad moved swiftly to intercept, weapons primed but faces calm, because they had trained for this day their whole lives. They had prepared for invasion, but hoped it would never come, and now the moment was here, charged with both fear and fierce pride. The landing pod touched down silently, the hatch opening slowly to reveal Sindari soldiers stepping out, their armor glinting under the twin suns, faces unreadable behind their visors, each side watching the other carefully, aware that the first move could ignite a battle that would spread across the stars. The Sindari commander, speaking in clipped tones through a translator device, demanded surrender and submission, confident in their fleet's power but cautious of the colony's unexpected strength, while the human leaders replied with firm defiance, making clear that New Horizon would never be taken without a fight. Suddenly, without warning, the Sindari opened fire, their energy weapons slicing through the dry air, and Mara's squad responded instantly, ducking behind natural cover as pulse rifles and missile launchers roared to life, turning the open plains into a deadly battlefield where every shot mattered and every decision could mean survival or death. The clash was brutal but brief, the colony's hidden defenses activating to cut off Sindari reinforcements, while skilled sharpshooters and engineers used the terrain and their knowledge of the land to their advantage, pushing the invaders back even as orbital strikes from Sindari ships bombarded the colony's outskirts in a desperate attempt to break their will. The battle was more than just a fight for land, it was a test of humanity's resolve, their ingenuity, and their refusal to be forgotten or crushed beneath the weight of a galaxy that had long dismissed them. Deep within New Horizons' command bunker, the colony's leaders made a critical decision to send out a covert distress signal, encrypted and hidden beneath layers of false data, reaching far beyond the borders of known space, calling for aid from Earth and other human settlements, knowing that this fight was only the beginning of a much larger war. Back on the Sindari flagship, the unexpected resistance fueled fear and anger, and commanders scrambled to bring in reinforcements, their once confident plans now clouded by the reality of a human colony willing and able to fight back fiercely. While below, Mara moved through the chaos, her heart pounding but her mind sharp, rallying her squad to hold the line against waves of enemy troops and strange robotic units deployed by the Sindari, each encounter pushing the limits of her courage and skill. As day turned to night under New Horizons' twin moons, the colony's lights burned bright, a symbol of unyielding hope and defiance, while the Sindari fleet regrouped and prepared for a larger assault, unaware that the humans were ready for war in ways the galaxy had never seen before, and that this first contact, first fire, had set in motion events that would change the fate of humanity forever, marking the beginning of a fierce struggle where underestimated humans would prove they were far more than just a forgotten colony. Far beyond the distant battleground of New Horizon, deep in the shadows of Earth's orbit where few dared to look, a secret waited patiently for the moment to reveal itself: the hidden armada, a vast and powerful fleet of warships that had been quietly maintained and expanded over decades, shielded from the prying eyes of other galactic powers, and preserved as humanity's ultimate safeguard. For years, this fleet had lain dormant behind layers of advanced stealth technology and orbiting cloaking arrays, tucked away in carefully hidden jump gates and space docks scattered across uncharted systems, their crews living in strict secrecy and constant readiness, aware that one day the forgotten might have to rise again to defend their home and the future of mankind. And now that day had come. As the distress call from New Horizon echoed across the void, piercing through the cosmic silence, Earth's high command stirred from its long-held vigilance, activating the ancient protocols that once kept humanity strong during the darkest wars, calling countless ships from their hidden harbors and rallying thousands of trained soldiers, pilots, and engineers who had waited in silence for the moment they would answer the call to fight. From massive dreadnoughts bristling with weaponry that could devastate entire fleets to nimble scout ships equipped with cutting-edge sensors, the Armada emerged from its shadows like a force of nature, cutting through the void with a precision and speed that stunned observers watching from faraway systems, their coordinated jump gates igniting in bursts of light as one after another, the warships streamed toward the conflict, a silent tidal wave of steel and fire, poised to change the balance of power forever. On Earth, the commanders gathered in a secure war room beneath layers of reinforced metal, eyes fixed on the screens tracking the fleet's progress and the unfolding war at New Horizon, their voices calm but filled with purpose as they gave orders not just to defend the colony, but to reclaim humanity's rightful place in the stars after centuries of decline and exile. Meanwhile, aboard the lead flagship, Captain Jurek stood on the bridge, his gaze steady as he prepared to lead the fleet into battle, knowing the galaxy had long underestimated humans, assuming they were weak and divided, but he carried the weight of a proud legacy and an unbreakable spirit, ready to unleash humanity's full might against the alien powers that had threatened their kind for too long. As the fleet closed the distance to New Horizon, alien scouts scrambled to intercept, their sensors finally detecting the massive human force, and panic rippled through enemy ranks. Reports flooded in of the fleet's size, its advanced weaponry, and its unmatched coordination, shattering the illusion of a fractured, helpless species, and forcing even the most confident alien leaders to reconsider their strategies and alliances. Back on New Horizon, Mara received news of the Armada's approach, her heart pounding with hope and fear, knowing this fleet was the key to turning the tide, but also realizing that the arrival of so much power would not end the war overnight. There would be brutal battles ahead, testing every ounce of courage and skill they possessed. The humans' warships unfolded like a living wall around the colony, their shields glowing brightly against the stars as they formed a protective ring, ready to engage the alien forces in space and on the surface, while human pilots took to their fighters, weaving through asteroid fields and debris to strike with lightning speed and precision, showing the galaxy that humanity's resilience was matched only by its cunning and adaptability. The alien coalition, caught off guard by the sudden emergence of such a formidable fleet, hastily mobilized their own ships, but their tactics faltered. Against the humans' unpredictable maneuvers and advanced technology, as battles erupted and the void explosions lit the darkness, ships twisted and turned, and the clash of steel and plasma filled the silent night with violent energy. Amid the chaos, Captain Jarek and Mara's forces coordinated flawlessly, sharing intelligence and strategies across secure channels, a testament to the human ability to unite under pressure and adapt in the face of overwhelming odds, inspiring both their allies and even some alien observers who began to question their own allegiances. As the fleet continued its relentless advance, rumors spread among alien command that the humans had more secrets yet to reveal, that the hidden armada was only the beginning of a new era of human strength and defiance, and that any who underestimated humanity would pay a steep price. The story of the hidden armada was no longer a secret, it was a roaring truth, echoing across the galaxy and igniting a fire of hope among humans and fear among their enemies, signaling that the fight for New Horizon was just the opening act in a saga that would decide the future of the stars and prove, beyond doubt, that humanity was a force no one could ignore. The moment the hidden armada finally revealed itself in full, the vast human fleet unleashed its power in a spectacle that stunned every observer in the galaxy, warships emerging from the darkness like a thunderstorm of metal and fire, their engines glowing bright as they surged forward with deadly precision and speed, breaking the silence of space with the hum of countless weapon systems waking to life. The command bridge of the flagship Tremor buzzed with energy as Captain Jarek barked orders, coordinating the fleet's movements with flawless skill, knowing that this was the turning point. The long-hidden strength of humanity was no longer a secret, and the alien forces that had once dismissed humans as weak and divided now faced a tidal wave of disciplined power that could not be stopped by mere numbers or outdated tactics. From sleek fighters darting through asteroid fields to massive cruisers unleashing barrages of plasma and missiles, the battle erupted in every corner of the sector, with human ships striking swiftly and retreating before enemy retaliation, using their deep knowledge of the terrain and superior technology to keep the enemy off balance. While on the ground, Mara and her team fought desperately to hold New Horizons' surface, repelling waves of alien soldiers supported by robotic war machines, their courage and training turning the colony into an unyielding fortress. As every victory in space above echoed in the fierce resistance below, alien commanders scrambled to adapt, ordering reinforcements to the front lines and deploying experimental weapons in a desperate attempt to break the human advance. But the fleet's advanced shields absorbed the onslaught, and human crews repaired damage faster than it could accumulate, showing a resilience and unity that shocked even the most experienced enemy captains. Amid the chaos, human pilots became legends in their own right, weaving through enemy fire with daring maneuvers and taking out critical targets that disrupted the alien supply lines and command structures, their actions inspiring cheers over secure channels and fear in the hearts of their foes, who realized that the humans fought not only with technology but with a ferocity born of years of survival against impossible odds. As the battle spread across multiple star systems, allied species began to watch and reconsider their positions, some secretly sending envoys to the humans, intrigued by their sudden strength and eager to join what seemed to be the rising force in the galaxy, while others tightened their ranks in opposition, fearing the shift in power that the unleashed fleet represented. Back on Earth, the war council observed the unfolding events with cautious hope, knowing that the fleet's success would depend not just on firepower, but on their ability to hold together a coalition of diverse forces and to keep the human spirit alive in every pilot, soldier, and citizen caught in the widening war. The fighting was brutal and unrelenting. Starships collided in bursts of light, planets echoed with the sounds of battle, and every victory came at a cost. But humanity fleet pressed on, driven by a fierce belief that this was their moment to reclaim their destiny and prove that the underestimated humans were the galaxy's greatest surprise. Captain Jarek's voice was steady as he guided his ships through deadly encounters, while Mara led daring raids against enemy encampments. Each action feeding the growing legend of humanity's unstoppable rise. The fleet unleashed was more than a force of destruction, it was a symbol of hope, unity, and resilience, showing that no empire, no matter how vast or powerful, could silence the human will to survive and thrive among the stars. As the final waves of enemy resistance faltered and the skies cleared above New Horizon, the fleet held its formation, a shining wall of defense and promise, signaling that this was only the beginning of a long struggle, but that humanity was ready, united and unyielding, to fight for every inch of space and every moment of freedom in a galaxy that had once forgotten them. As the dust settled from the initial fierce battles that marked humanity's explosive return to galactic power, the leaders of New Horizon and the Hidden Armada understood that survival would no longer depend on strength alone, but on forging fragile bonds and navigating treacherous new alliances that could shift with the stars themselves. From the dark fringes of unexplored space, various alien species, long cautious of humanity or even openly hostile, began sending emissaries, their motives a mixture of fear, hope, and opportunism, some seeking partnership in the face of the overwhelming force the humans now represented, while others arrived cloaked in deception, ready to exploit the chaos for their own gain. Mara, fresh from the brutal frontline defense, found herself part of a tense delegation that met with the enigmatic Zuran, a reptilian species known for their cunning and fierce independence, whose representatives eyed the humans warily but recognized the strengthened spirit beneath the steel armor, offering a tentative alliance that could tip the balance in coming battles, but demanded deep trust and difficult concessions. Across the command networks, Captain Jarek and his council wrestled with difficult decisions. Should they accept aid from races that had once considered humans inferior or dangerous, or hold to pride and risk isolation in a war that was growing larger and more complex by the hour? Meanwhile, new adversaries emerged from the shadows, including rogue factions within the Sindari Empire, whose leaders refused to surrender their claim over New Horizon and now turned to brutal tactics of sabotage, espionage, and assassination to weaken the human cause from within, striking at colonies, supply lines, and even friendly alien allies, spreading fear and suspicion through the ranks. The unfolding web of allies and adversaries tested humanity's capacity for diplomacy and deception, trust and betrayal, as each new meeting brought fragile hopes of peace or sudden shocks of conflict that could shatter the delicate balance. Mara's team faced a critical mission to expose an infiltrator in the colony's intelligence network, a tense game of cat and mouse that revealed just how close the enemy's reach extended and how thin the line between friend and foe had become, forcing the humans to question who they could really trust in this sprawling cosmic war. Throughout the fleet and colonies, stories spread of unlikely heroes, pilots who flew with unmatched bravery to protect alien allies, diplomats who negotiated peace deals that saved thousands of lives, and scientists who shared technology across species lines to strengthen the combined defenses, reminding everyone that in this vast and dangerous galaxy, cooperation could be humanity's greatest weapon, but also its greatest risk. Yet, as the coalition slowly grew, so did the enemy's resolve, with new alliances forming against humanity. A coalition of ancient powers and opportunistic warlords determined to crush the rising human threat before it could change the balance of power forever. And each battle tested the limits of endurance and strategy as humans and their allies fought not just for land or resources, but for the very future of freedom in the stars. Under the twin moons of New Horizon, Mara stood with representatives of Zyron and others, alien partners, watching the horizon where distant fleets gathered, knowing that the battles ahead would demand every ounce of courage, wisdom, and unity humanity could muster, and that the story of allies and adversaries was far from over. It was the great struggle that would define this new era of human strength and galactic destiny. The great battle for the future of humanity and its newfound allies unfolded with a brutal intensity that shook star systems and stretched the limits of endurance. As the combined fleets, human, Zuran, and others, moved as one into a deadly confrontation with the shadowed forces gathered by the Sindari and their dark allies, fleets numbering far beyond what had been imagined, filling the void with flashing lights and roaring engines, the void suddenly alive With chaos and the fierce determination of those fighting for survival, Captain Jarek stood on the bridge of the flagship Tremor, his eyes scanning the vast display of incoming enemy ships as the warning sirens echoed and the first volleys of plasma and missiles streaked across space. A deadly dance of destruction where every decision could mean the difference between victory and annihilation, and the fate of millions hung on the shoulders of those who dared to stand and fight. Below, on New Horizon, Mara and her squad prepared for the worst, their weapons loaded and nerves steel strong. As they awaited the inevitable ground invasion, knowing that if the space battle was lost, the colony would be overwhelmed in moments, but also determined that if it came to that, they would fight with everything they had, each of them ready to become legends in a war that would echo through history. As the battle erupted, massive cruisers traded fire, energy shields shimmered under assault, and squadrons of fighters weaved through the carnage with razor-sharp precision, seeking weak points and striking with ruthless efficiency, while orbital defense platforms blasted the enemy with relentless barrages, creating a deadly ballet of light and shadow that tested every tactical instinct and piece of technology. Among the chaos, new alliances were forged in fire, with alien captains and human commanders sharing strategies and resources to adapt to shifting threats, while sabotage and betrayal lurked in hidden corners, enemy spies attempting to cripple the fragile coalition from within even as frontline soldiers faced the brutal reality of war's cost. On the ground, Mara led daring strikes to disrupt enemy supply chains and gather intelligence, her team slipping through dark forests and ruined cities, their every move shadowed by danger, but their courage unshaken as they fought for every inch of territory, protecting civilians and destroying enemy strongholds with a mix of skill, luck, and unbreakable resolve. As hours turned into days, the battle pushed both sides to their limits. Ships burned, soldiers fell, and entire planets bore scars from the relentless fighting. But humanity and its allies refused to back down, their spirit a shining beacon amid the destruction. Their belief that this fight was for the future of all free peoples driving them forward even as hope seemed to waver. In a pivotal moment, Captain Jarek ordered a bold maneuver, sending a strike force deep into enemy lines to disable a key command ship, risking everything on a gamble that could end the war or doom their forces, while Mara's squad intercepted critical communications, uncovering plans that revealed the enemy's next moves and allowing the coalition to prepare defenses that would save thousands of lives. The battle raged on with no clear end in sight, the cost rising with every passing hour, but in the hearts of those who fought, a fierce determination burned the conviction that the future belonged to those who could stand united against the darkness, who could fight not just for survival but for a chance to build a galaxy where humanity and its allies could thrive in freedom and peace. As the twin suns of New Horizons set behind smoke-filled skies, the weary survivors looked to the stars, knowing that the battle for the future was far from over, but that their courage and sacrifice had already changed the course of history forever, marking the dawn of a new era where humanity would no longer be forgotten or underestimated, and where the fight for freedom would continue until the stars themselves bore witness to the indomitable spirit of those who refused to surrender. After the brutal struggle that had scarred worlds and shattered fleets, a fragile calm settled over the battle-scarred systems, and from the smoke and ruin rose a new dawn among the stars, a moment where humanity and its allies could finally glimpse a future forged in fire, but shaped by hope. Captain Jarek stood on the bridge of the Tremor, his gaze steady and thoughtful as the last enemy ships retreated into the depths of space, their forces broken and scattered, while the fleet regrouped and tended to the wounded, the exhausted crews, silently honoring those who had fallen, knowing that the price of victory had been high, but the cost of surrender far greater. On New Horizon, Mara walked among the survivors, her heart heavy with the memories of battles fought and comrades lost, but also lifted by the sight of children playing amid the rebuilding colonies and aliens and humans, working side by side to restore what war had nearly destroyed. a living proof that unity and perseverance could heal even the deepest wounds. The political halls buzzed with cautious optimism as new alliances were formalized, treaties signed, and plans laid for a federation of free worlds, built on trust, cooperation, and the shared dream of peace, though everyone knew that vigilance would be needed to guard against the shadows that still lingered at the edges of the galaxy as the human fleet sailed through the stars with a renewed sense of purpose, now no longer hidden but proudly known as a symbol of resilience and strength. Messages of gratitude and hope poured in from distant worlds. Once too fearful to stand with humanity, their voices joining in a chorus that promised a future where no one would fight alone. Yet beneath this hopeful dawn, whispers of new threats circulated, old enemies regrouping in secret, ancient powers watching patiently, and the fragile threads of peace, tested by greed and fear, reminding all that the galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of challenges that would demand the courage and wisdom of every generation to come. In quiet moments, Captain Jarek and Mara shared their thoughts on the bridge and among the ruins, knowing that their fight had changed everything, that humanity's story was no longer one of exile and survival, but of leadership and hope, and that the stars themselves had become a home where dreams of freedom and unity could finally take root, as the twin suns of New Horizon rose once again, casting golden light on a battered but unbroken world. The people looked to the future with eyes wide open, ready to face whatever trials awaited, united by a promise that no matter how dark the night, a new dawn would always follow, bright and full of endless possibilities for humanity and all those brave enough to reach for the stars.